Like it or not, there's gonna come a day when you think,
oh my God, I should do a podcast.
We could do a podcast.
A what now?
Podcast.
Dad, I want you to be a guest on my beauty podcast.
great. And when that day comes, you'll probably also think,
How do we make a podcast?
say hello to Descript. It's how you make a podcast. Descript is a brand new way to record, edit, and mix spoken audio.
That's cool.
In fact, it's a brand new way to even think about spoken audio. Not like that.
How does it all work?
Just connect your mic to your computer and hit this button.
So what's your favorite flavor? Mine's soup.
Do I speak into this?
Yep.
Can you edit that out?
Yep. Editing audio has always been complicated. In fact, even today it's...
Welcome back to part 3 of our 48 parts.
But Descript is simple. It takes your audio and turns it into text. Which means when this happens...
Today on the pod, he's gonna turn himself into a total glamazon. Think you're ready?
Yes, Queen.
Ew, Dad, just say yes.
Yes, so ready.
Editing your podcast is as easy as...
Think you're ready?
Yes, so ready.
Whoa. I like it.
Keep joy. I'll be over here making real podcasts.
Descript, a toy, not so fast. Non-destructive editing, multi-track editing, finely tuned edits, crossfades, volume automation, loudness normalization, track groupings, timeline export to Pro Tools and Audition, the whole potato.
Oh,
It'll even edit video podcasts if that's your thing. Plus, it's got live collaboration.
This could use some work.
What if we tighten this up just a titch?
Wow. It's like you're right here with me.
That's not all Descript can do. It also has something called Overdub.
Over what now?
Overdub.
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 Overdub?
Jeez, yes, overdub. It's a way of adding new words to your recording. Like this.
Trudy toots tomorrow. Trudy toots tomorrow. Trudy toots tomorrow. Yesterday over Szechuan chicken, I spoke to Detective Greg Campbell.
With Overdub, you can use your own voice to synthesize new audio. Just do this.
Yesterday over biscuits, I spoke to Detective Greg Campbell. I don't know, man. It seems like people could use that for some pretty...
Bad stuff, yeah. Which is why you can only use it with your own voice and no one else's. So you can't...
My butt looks like a pizza.
That's Descript. A whole new way to record, transcribe, edit, mix, and master your podcast.
Thank you for listening.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
Kevin.
Hey, Christiana.
How's
Welcome,
it going?
everyone.
Welcome, everyone. Hello, podcasters. Welcome to Narrative Podcasting in Descript. We hope that you liked that little intro video. I know it never gets old for us. And we're so glad you're here. I'm Christiana. I'm the community manager, and I'm joined by Kevin, our product specialist. Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Pretty amazing to see people from all over the world in the chat today. Belgium, Chicago, Flagstaff, Mexico City, wherever you're tuning in from. We're so glad you're here. And we're going to get started in just a minute. We're going to give people a couple more minutes to jump in, and we'll start with a fun little warm-up question. This is for Kevin, but also for everybody in the audience. I want to know your answer. Kevin, what's your favorite narrative podcast?
Oh, favorite ever. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can give one that title, but a show that I've revisited a few times is called California Love by LAS Studios. It's a really cool show. I just listened to it for, like the third time last week, and I highly recommend it. Great show about someone who grows up in LA, and there's some really like very cool LA stories and experiences. And the music's amazing. The writing's so great. And shout out to LAist for making a great show.
Love it. That gives
How
me
about you?
California nostalgia.
Yeah.
I also same. I can't give it up to just one, but recently I listened to my first narrative podcast, like true crime story, which is not really my jam, but I loved it. It's called Your Own Backyard, and it was like this podcaster set out to sort of bring new light to like a cold case of a missing person. And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but he upturned some pretty amazing evidence, which I loved. Like also just like the power of storytelling and podcasting and stuff like that. So
Cool.
that's my recent listen. Everybody, let us know your favorite, and also you can plug your own podcast too if you've made it already, or maybe you're here to learn how to do that, and this is the right session for you. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to share a little sneak peek of what you can expect today before we jump in. So today we're going to cover lots of good stuff. Collaborating in Descript, organizing your drive for long form content, recording, importing, and of course transcribing, pulling selects and editing interviews, using Overdub, our AI synthetic voice tool, which you saw a little sneak preview of in that video, how to share revisions, fine-tuning in Descript, or exporting out to a different tool. And then if we have time, we're going to cover social video. And even if we don't have time, we'll tell you where you can learn more about promoting your content on social. And then just some reminders for this session. Down below, you see the Ask a Question section. Our support hero, Marcelo, is in there answering all of your Descript questions. Feel free to throw anything in there, and then use the chat for your reactions, chatting, commentary. Tell Kevin you like his plant in the background, whatever you want. And then if we freeze, just hit refresh on your browser. And also this session is recorded, so we'll send it in a follow-up email. And then lastly, right now, a new version of Descript Storyboard is out in preview. You've probably seen it if you've recently signed up or you've heard about it. If you click the little preview star button in Descript, lots of learning resources will be there. So at any point during this or afterwards, you can go learn more by clicking that. And Marcelo is going to share the early access link to sign up to try out Storyboard in the chat. I think that's all of my reminders. For new folks, we're also going to share a promo code so that you can try out Descript for free for a month, and we'll send that in the chat as well. But other than that, I think we're ready to kick it over to you, Kevin.
Let's do it. Yeah, for new folks to Descript, create a new account, get your promo code set up, and then go to descript.com/storyboard and put in your Descript email to get access to Storyboard.
Yep.
Get you going.
Automatically give you access.
Yeah, we're going to show off Storyboard today. But a lot of the workflow, if you're still kind of maybe still using Classic or you're bouncing back and forth and experimenting with Storyboard, the vast majority of the kind of overarching workflow is still there. But with Storyboard, obviously, for those that know about it, we're bringing video up to the same level as we've been able to work in audio for a long time. So there's a bunch of new opportunities there if you're interested in getting into video or you also create video. But for audio only folks, there's some really cool features that have been implemented, as well as just a complete UI overhaul and redesign that looks and feels really great, a little bit more streamlined. I'm going to start. Christiana and I obviously work on a lot of these together. So kind of going through this, thinking about if we were working on a show with one another, and we'll start with some collaboration, how we get set up so we don't hit any roadblocks and we can work together at the same time on a show.
That sounds great. It would be an honor to work on a podcast with you someday, Kevin, by the way.
We should do that sooner than later.
Soft launching that. Yeah, let's jump in.
Awesome. Go ahead and share my screen. So here is the new UI of Descript Storyboard. And if you haven't yet jumped into Storyboard, definitely we recommend going to our YouTube page and checking out one of our 101 sessions just to kind of get a feel for where all of the nitty gritty lives and what things have changed, or just a general overview. Because narrative podcasting entails a bunch of other things that we want to make sure we get to, we might glance over or only touch upon some of the 101 style features or ideas in Descript. So have no fear, this is obviously recorded, so you can watch this later on YouTube, or you can watch our 101 session on YouTube if you want to get a little bit of a foundation, whatever works for you. We definitely recommend having this side by side with Descript as you're going, so you can pause the video after or anything like that. So I'm going to go up to my drive real quick into my settings. I'm going to click my avatar or my initials in the top right hand corner and go to my drive members here. You see I have a bunch of folks that I work with on the show, but I'm going to add Christiana too. And Christiana, your email is christiana@descript.com.
Absolutely.
Cool.
It's where you or
add
anyone in the
Christiana.
audience can find me.
Oh gosh. I'm going to add you're going to set up an inbox filter now.
Exactly.
I'm going to send Christiana an invite to be an editor on my drive, which means she'll be able to import and transcribe and edit, export, do all of the things. If I ever wanted to add someone as a basic member, it's also a really great option for someone who you don't want to give edit or transcribing access to, but maybe they just want to come in and review, leave some comments, listen, play back any media. It's a really great option. And that's free. So free for anyone there. They just need a Descript account. And then an editor seat is, to add a single editor seat is the same price as your Descript plan, whichever one you have chosen. All right, so I'm going to add Christiana, team member invited. So now I can start to work with Christiana on a bunch of different stuff. So commenting, or just if I want to move stuff around into different folders, you'll have access to that. So the two things that I think are going to be really helpful starting off with narrative work, if you're working on a team or even if you're working on your own, organization for narrative podcasts is just so key, especially if you're working on a multi-series or anything that's a limited run series and you have just a ton of audio that you need to bring in, different interviews and whatnot. So usually start with a bunch of different folders. One might be the specific show that you're working on, or the specific team that you're on, whatever it might be, or a specific year. And that gives us a start fresh point. So I have this narrative podcast folder. And from here, I'll usually come up with a nice organizational theme. And things that have worked for other teams and other producers have been, we'll create a project, a Descript project, for all of our interviews that have someone with the last name A through F, or all of the interviews we did week 2 of November 2020, whatever it might be. Basically a way to break up and create a library of all of our tape and all of our media, so that we're not overloading one single project with a ton of media, because we'll get some performance issues, but also for searchability, so we can find stuff really easily. So I'll often create a new folder, be like, yeah, interviews A through F, another folder, and kind of organize it out that way. This is entirely up to you and your team, but these are some ways that we've seen folks have some success. It's really great too, because I can pin some of these folders to the side and star them. So if I want to have these starred, I can create some shortcuts to them. Is that a per user level? So your shortcuts will be different from other folks as well. And a few steps back as well, like something that I do a lot with different teams that I work on when I'm working on shows is I'll just create new drives. If I have a different team, if I'm a freelancer and I work on a show for an organization or an individual, I'll create a drive with and for them. And then I'll also create another drive kind of going across that way. And that way I can have different members and different drives, and it's all nice and organized. You can do that here, and you can add a new drive at the bottom of your drop down right here.
Awesome. Kevin, can I sneak in a question really quick?
Please.
While we're taking it back a step. So some folks are wondering, we mentioned storyboard earlier, and someone asked, essentially, is storyboard an added feature, or is it sort of like standard Descript? So maybe we can just give a little bit of background, and just to be clear, folks, this is about podcasting, this event. So you're in the right place, but maybe we can just give them a little bit more background.
Yeah, absolutely. Storyboard is what we're calling the redesign of the Descript desktop app. So storyboard is kind of a theme. If you're into video editing, you want to understand how storyboard has changed, how Descript has changed with the introduction of this storyboard theme. Check that out in one of our 101 videos. But everything that we're doing with audio is pretty similar to what we're calling Descript Classic, where we drop an audio, get a transcription, edit that transcript to edit the underlying audio. You can bring in music, record directly in, all that stuff. But storyboard is what we're calling the new version of Descript. So eventually the classic Descript, the old UI and the old features, limited features, that will be going away at some point in the next few months. And Descript Storyboard is what will be known as just Descript.
Yes, the next generation.
Next generation.
So yeah, storyboard is built around a new way to do video editing. So like Kevin said, you can go check out all of the details at descript.com/storyboard or in a 101. But today is about podcasting. So this is all for you podcasters, and so you're in the right place. Just wanted to clear that up real quick.
It'll become very clear once you start making a project.
Yes.
Working with audio.
Totally. But I will say, like, the cleanliness tips you are giving in terms of like drive structure, I think is good for no matter what kind of content you're making.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Universal.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
Cool. So note we're here on this Drive workspace. This is called the Team Drive, and the Drive workspace, the shared space. So when I'm working with other folks, I have these 6 members. They'll all be able to access these folders and any of the projects that live within these folders. If I ever want to work on something privately and not share it with anyone just yet, I can throw it in my private workspace, or I can always change the visibility of a specific project in my Drive. Okay, let's start to make a project. While we do that, I'm also going to talk about another layer of collaborating before we get into editing. But when we're ready, we're going to create a new project. This blue button on the top. It's going to create an empty Descript project for us. And how many interviews we have, we might do interviews A or keep this interviews A through F as one project. And kind of jumping a few steps ahead is the way this will eventually look. If you're working on a narrative series, you'll have a bunch of projects with different interviews, and you'll also create a new project for every episode that you're going to assemble. So you can create open multiple windows in Descript, so you can pull tape and copy and paste from the transcription into other projects. It's a great way to keep things separate and organized, but then you'll eventually create like an episode 1 project, episode 2 project, that kind of stuff. Cool. Let's jump back in. All right, so we have some interviews and we're going to drop them in. But before I do that, I might want to collaborate with a freelancer or a fact checker or anybody. And I don't necessarily need to give them import and transcribe access, but I do want them to be able to edit. Or I don't want them to be able to see all the projects back in my Drive. What I can do is click this project access button in the top right-hand corner. And I can add folks' emails right here, decide if I want them to be able to edit media that's in here or just comment, view, and listen. And you can also add them to the Drive here and decide what kind of access is required for this specific Drive. You can copy the link and share it real quick, and they'll be able to open right up, and it'll pop open the app for them. So big difference between a Drive member as an editor. They can import, transcribe, edit, export. And a project editor can only edit, comment, view, listen, and export. It removes that transcribe and import ability. And this is free to add folks to a project by itself. Cool.
Sweet.
All right. So as we're working, kind of keeping up our theme of organization, if I click this drop down right here, this is our project contents viewer. So I can create folders here as well, which might be like raw interviews. Make another one, it's edited interviews, and organize how I want that way. Because what I have here, I'm inside of a project in Descript, but I have a composition, which is our version of a doc. So you'll see as I drop in media, I'm just going to grab some audio from my computer real quick. We'll talk more about importing in a second. But as I drop in audio and transcribe it and bring it in, this is where I'm going to see that text transcription, and I can do my editing. So this is a composition, and here in this drop down is where I might see or create multiple compositions, different folders. I can drag and drop these in and reorganize, put them exactly where I want them. So we'll call this one Alana and Sasha. So there's our structure in Descript. We have our drive, we have folders in our drive, then we have a project, and then we have compositions, which can be arranged in these subfolders within a project. And this is what a composition looks like if you're new to Descript. Okay, cool. Looking pretty good. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the ask a question feature or in the chat. We're happy to kind of break down the structure of Descript, which is built very differently than other editors. All right, Christiana, where to next? What do you think we should hit now?
Great question. Should we do a quick little look at so we did collaboration, maybe like editing the transcript a little bit in Descript, just showing some of the bells and whistles real quick?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome.
I definitely glanced over how we bring in tape just to show what a composition looks like. But yeah, let's bring in some audio and talk about some editing. That sound good?
Awesome.
Cool. There's three main ways to get audio into Descript. One is using our built-in recorder, where you can record audio, have your computer audio as well, or different inputs depending on what kind of audio device you have, and it'll record directly in your composition here. You can just start speaking, and it's going to transcribe in real time as well, and eventually you'll start to see your transcript pop up as you're recording, and when you're done recording, you can just press stop. You can edit as you're going as well, but it'll be pretty close to real time once it initializes. Once it initializes. Cool. If you're recording there, it drops in. Pretty easy. What I had there is also I had studio sound applied to my audio, which is our voice enhancement feature, which I'll show you in a little bit. But you can decide to have that on or off right there, or see some other settings right here. All right, so that's a built-in recorder. We also have a feature called Edit in Descript, which is a collaboration with our friends at Squadcast and Riverside. So if you record using one of those two tools, you record an interview, you can choose Edit in Descript and drop that audio and or video from the interview right into Descript. So it takes it from their cloud and drops it to our cloud, creates a project for you. It's amazing. No more downloading files and like taking up hard drive space, all that. It just ports it right over, creates the project, and you're good to go.
Awesome.
The last way, which might be the most common for a lot of folks, is importing and transcribing audio that you have on a hard drive or on your computer. And through my screen share, you won't be able to see it exactly, but you're going to see the outcome is I'm just on my computer and I have a folder with my interview audio. And a big thing that I have here is I've recorded all of my interviews multi-track, meaning if there's one person speaking, they get their own microphone and their own track. So for instance, if you're using Squadcast or Riverside, obviously there's some kind of microphone plugged in your computer on your end. There's some kind of microphone or built-in microphone on their end, and one microphone, one speaker, it's 2 tracks. So if their air conditioner goes off or their dog barks while you're talking, it's easy to cut out. It doesn't pair the audio together. So we definitely recommend anytime you're recording, whether it's in the studio or doing remote recording, wherever, using multi-track recording if you're doing interview style tracking. Another great option that if you're from a broadcast background or just have one microphone is recording in person and or virtually, and really giving space to the interview so our transcription can tell who's speaking when. So it'd be from one microphone, maybe I'm interviewing Christiana and I speak for a little bit, ask the question, I take a pause, and then I ask, and then Christiana will answer. You can import single pieces of audio in Descript and it will identify speakers for you and label those out really nicely. But in the end, probably the majority of the time, having multiple tracks, one track, one microphone per speaker is going to help you out a lot. The way you get that audio in to Descript is you select all of the files from that interview and you drag and drop them in together at the same time directly into an empty composition, just like that. You can add some speaker names right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to combine these 2 files into a multi-track sequence, which is our Descript feature that pairs these 2 pieces of audio together, kind of under the hood and in the background, and allows us to see one script and one timeline for this interview. Name real quick. It's going to transcribe for me. Look at that text transcription there. I also have my timeline right here, which can be resized. If I ever bring in other like ambient sound or music or anything, any other audio, it's going to go in this layer track right here. And then this is the track, which we call the script track, for our script, our actual narrative audio. Cool. So these are linked. And every edit that I make to the script, it's always going to happen to the underlying audio. It's also going to make that same edit in the timeline. They are reflective of one another. So for me, when I'm working on something, a lot of times I'll spend maybe 75% of my time working in the script, and then I'll use the timeline to do some fine-tune edits. So the power of Descript.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, there's a few principles that I firmly believe in.
Okay, so a little bit of a rough start to that answer to the question. What I can do is just select this text and delete it, and it's going to remove it from that recording.
There's a few principles that I firmly believe in. One, I think that
take this M out. I could delete it just like that. It'll remove it as well.
Believe in.
Or I can use our ignore feature, which strikes out the audio. And the same thing, skips it over, but I can see what edits I've made.
Believe in. One, I think that athletes are elevated to this like godlike status, or celebrities are elevated to this godlike status. And that's somewhat uncomfortable for me because we're all one and the same in terms of humanity.
You can go through and make all of your edits using that strikeout. And if you're working with someone, or you just maybe, your future self, that might want to bring things back or be able to see what you've edited, you can select that stuff that you've removed and unstrike it out, unignore it, and bring it right back in.
That's also great for when you're working in teams. So say your collaborator struck something out and you guys are collaborating it on together, you can still see that and have a conversation about it if you need to.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
As you're working, you might be dropping in some comments. So I might add a comment and tag someone on my team. My friend Marcelo's here, and say, can we fact check this first paragraph? Or you like this opening? Marcelo will get a Slack and email notification. Slack if you have it set up, but you can go through and collaborate that way as you're working. You can be in storyboard, you can be in the same composition with one or more collaborators and be editing together, which is really great. Sorry, not composition, in the same project. So you could be working on different edits or be in the same composition, whatever makes sense. And you'll see your edits happen in real time.
Awesome.
And you can go through and edit a lot of this using the script. So I'll make some big chunked edits and pulling out sections, or maybe I'm cutting, copying, and pasting sections using the text to rearrange the sections of the interview. And just using that editing text feature to get an overall pacing for a single interview or a single passage of audio.
Awesome.
Before we get into pulling selects and writing in between selects and that kind of stuff, Christiane, I want to pause and make sure if we have any questions about what we've covered so far.
Totally. Yeah. Tim asked a great question. Actually, sorry, it was Tiana. If you have a video, how does striking out impact it? So are those destructive edits? How does that impact a video proponent?
Descript is always non-destructive. So you can always bring edits that you've made, just bring them right back by unignoring it, and it'll bring back that audio that was removed. Mm-hmm. Even deleting sentences or words isn't destructive because you can see there's an edit point, and I can highlight that edit point in the script and restore the removed media right there. With video, it's just going to make a cut. So with audio, it's a little bit more transparent, and you can make cuts and rearrange sections and really craft it. Yeah. With video, you're going to see a jump because maybe I'm talking the first section and then my hands are down. You'll see my hands jump from frame to frame. So video work is a little bit more of a, not more of an art, but more of a challenge with having highly edited content.
Totally.
A lot of times I'll bring in video and I'll just turn the video off, or I'll go into the composition settings here and switch it to video or back to audio. And I'll just use the audio that I had from a video recording or from somewhere on the internet, whatever it might be.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Do we have time for one other question?
Totally.
Before we move in? Awesome. Okay, so somebody said, what about the sequence view? Sometimes that's the only way I can get smooth playback. And they just love to check it out. Yeah,
for sure. The part about only getting smooth playback, definitely go to help.descript.com and talk to someone on our support team, maybe our bud Marcelo here, who's in the chat, or anyone else in the great team. Mm-hmm. We'd love to hear more about what that experience is like for you and what you mean by smooth playback. But the sequence view, remember, I brought in those two files. We had a file for Jeremy and a file for Patricia.
Right.
I'm going to right click anywhere in the script or in the timeline, and I can choose edit sequence. It's one way to see that the original pairing of these two files. I can also use shortcut, Shift Command or Shift Control O. But my favorite way to get into the sequence view is by double clicking in the timeline, because it's going to bring me right to that section. So if I double click right here where it says because, it's going to open up the sequence view and my playback is set to right where he says because.
So what's the difference between
The really, especially if there's crosstalk or some background noise, if you just double click right in that section, it'll bring you right there.
Awesome.
This is the sequence view. These are the 2 original files that I brought in. You can see there's some background noise here while Patricia is speaking. There's some background noise here while Jeremy's speaking. This is where I might use one of our editing tools in the sequence to remove audio from one of their tracks. By using the range tool, I can select a range, delete it, or I can use the select tool and just grab a whole piece of audio and press delete. Be careful here. If I move one of these files that way or anyway, you can end up getting your tracks out of sync. So once they're brought in, I only usually make range selections and either delete them or move them around, whatever it might be. So if this was a response to this stuff here and it just came in a little bit late, I could move that by using the range tool. Make some finer tune edits maybe. Stuff. But entirely not necessary. Just being careful of moving large sections out of sync. You'll see some issues in your composition that way.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sweet. All right. Well, I guess we can continue on. I'm also seeing a lot of chatter about templates. So maybe we can cover that in a little bit and sort of talk about like options for audio only folks and maybe just do a quick sneak preview of what templates look like in Storyboard. But Marcelo just shared a link in the chat if people want to go take a look at our help center for some more information on that.
Cool. Sounds good.
Sweet. All right.
So we're going to jump into real quick pulling selects, which is pulling pieces of an interview that we really like into a different composition, to a different edit, isolating them from the main interview. Right after that, we'll also talk about the timeline because there's tons of stuff in the timeline that we want to check out. And then we'll get into writing. So a couple different ways to pull selects. One of my favorite ways, which is just very, very quick. If I select some text here, I can right click it and choose duplicate to. If you're a Descript user, it used to be called clip to composition, but I can duplicate this selection to a new composition or an existing composition. And now I have this in its own document. And I can go through manually doing it or using these keyboard shortcuts. I'm just going to drop in my selects into that composition. Duplicate to, selects. Awesome. Now I go back to selects. Those are all dropped in there now. Very cool. Pretty easy, simple way just to drop sections over that I like. If I'm a little more of a visual person, and which I am, and also I want to just like track the stuff that I've dropped over, or I want my teammates to know what I've dropped over there, is I'll use highlighting. So using the highlight feature, which is in this drop down under ignore, I can use different color coded highlights or the same color, whichever works. Highlight all the sections that I want to pull as selects, or maybe I have 2 different people that are indicating selects that they like. And once I have some highlights in there, I can go up to this magic menu here, choose copy highlights. I can choose all of them, so all colors, or a specific color that I want to pull over. It's going to copy it to my clipboard, and then I can go over to where my destination and just paste those in. And it's going to bring
that's so handy.
Yeah.
This is why I love doing these with you, Kevin. I did not know that was a thing.
Oh, amazing.
That's great.
I'm so happy.
Wow. Amazing.
And what's really cool, like if I go back, those are all there. All those highlights are still there.
Right.
So I can go through if I'm ever going back into this interview and I'm like, ooh, I want to take this section maybe I should get the sentence before. I already know. No, I've already pulled that section over, so I only need to pull this sentence here. So a really great way for individual tracking or team tracking of what we've pulled.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Also, there's a timely question on this in the chat. Can you show the duplicate composition workflow if you haven't done that already?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm realizing I didn't do that in the beginning, huh? So you can right click. Here's a completely raw, unedited interview between Alana and Sasha that we pulled in. I can right click it, choose duplicate, and it's going to give me this copy of Alana and Sasha, and that's a great opportunity where I might drop it down into edited interviews or however I have that organized. And it might be edit, whatever your naming structure is. And then I go through and edit this way. A bunch of edits, cuts, or I'm pulling selects, whatever it might be. But I always have in my raw interviews folder the original that I can just jump back into really quick and have a completely unedited version, which is really nice for searching. If I use the search function to find a specific spot, a lot of folks will use that to just like, I remember that in that hour and a half interview that we did, we talked about that one thing, and you can jump to it really quick and say, oh yeah, let's talk about the time that they lived together. Boom.
And then I basically lived together for...
Oh, there it is. Awesome. And then you can take that and duplicate it to a specific composition or folder or something.
Nice. Beautiful. Thanks, Kevin.
Oh yeah, great question. And important one, so I'm glad we got it.
Sweet.
All right. So a couple things that I do before we just get into timeline stuff that I do with raw interviews while we're there is I'll oftentimes go up to that magic menu and shorten word gaps, which shortens periods of silence. So I'll take anything that's 1 second or more and I'll move it down to 1 second. So the longest period of silence that we have is 1 full second. So it keeps it kind of natural. But if there's any awkward pauses, you can see there's a bunch right here. It's like 6 seconds, 2.5. I'll apply to all, and I'll just snap all those points. So the longest period of silence that we have in this interview now is 1 second. So no more awkward pauses. I'll go up to the magic menu again and remove filler words. For me, I usually include about 20% of filler words to have it still feel natural. But that means I remove 80%. So what I'll do is I'll just remove them all. I'll ignore them for sure. I won't delete them because I want to bring some back. So I'll use ignore here. I'll select which ones I want. I always do, repeated words. Pretty good. Sometimes depending. And I'll go to apply all. So it applies it to all of those filler words. And you can see here in my script, I have all of those struck out filler words.
I know, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we've been...
That one I'm going to keep. I'm actually going to probably make another edit.
I know, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we were made to do this.
And I might keep that one in. But if I ever stumble upon one that I want to bring back.
I have the face filter on Zoom right now. Zoom. I don't look like this.
Make an editorial decision. I can just unstrike it out. I'll bring back that media.
Like, I don't look like this. I don't look...
Just like that. So I can see all those edits, all those filler words, and keep some of them in, pull some of them out, whatever works for you. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's check out the timeline because there's some really great stuff here. So my favorite aspect of the timeline are these word tabs. So when I'm playing back.
Fantastic. Great. Hi, Alana.
I have these little anchors to know what this waveform is, right? Like if we didn't have those in any standard audio editor, all we're doing is reading waveforms and listening and trying to make repeated edits and listening back, making some more edits. Here I can see this is the word fantastic. This is the word great. I don't need both of them. I might take the range tool and delete it. I might make that edit up here in the script. Or if I'm want to go pretty quick, I'll take these word tabs and drag them. I can just drag it to adjust my pacing. If I go to the left, it just removes tape, removes audio. And if I go to the right, it gives me AI generated room tone in this gap clip. So it analyzes the microphone noise and background noise of both of my speakers and adds in room tone. And I'll put them together here in Descript. But if I'm going to do an export to Audition or Pro Tools at some point, it splits out these tracks, has all of my edits, but it'll also have this AI generated room tone for each person. So it sounds like they just naturally paused while they were speaking. Very cool. Very, very helpful. And you can adjust that room tone here by clicking the clip, going to your clips list up here. And you can see this gap clip is already highlighted for me because I have it selected. And I can turn the room tone off or whatever I want to do, or add it back in.
Sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. This is also, room tone is also a setting on the project level. So you can go into your project settings or go into your preferences, your app preferences, and decide if you want room tone to happen on gap clips all the time. Also an opportune time to mention, this is where your default project setting is. So if you're an audio only creator, you can change that to your default. You can change your light or dark theme, which is great. And if you want to change between video and audio, I showed you not too long ago, click these three dots into composition settings and switch to video. That'll add a video pane for you. Or if it's a video project, switch to audio only, and I'll switch it back.
Beautiful. Easy peasy.
Yeah. All right, some more timeline stuff. So we talked about these word tabs. So cool. We have a bunch of edit tools, select, range, which we showed in the sequence, blade, which will just give us an edit point right there. Hand, which is just non-destructive. You can't do anything. You just navigate through the timeline. And slip tool, which allows us to slip and edit a clip independent from the rest of the edit right there. So it's pulling out all of the tape that once was there, or kind of pulling back the curtain. You can also do that on the edges of an edit point here by hovering and pulling it that way, or hovering and pulling it that way, just like most audio editors. And then the last piece in the timeline is our fades. So you can see these little tabs right here. I can click and drag it across an edit point, and it's going to give me a crossfade like that, smooth out edits. Or I can drag it to the left if I want to do a fade out, or to the right to do a fade in, like that. You can always click it to get some more settings. Cool. All right, we've talked about commenting, editing the script, timeline stuff. Might be nice to talk a little bit more about the script organization. We can jump back to the script. Before that, let's talk about adding music, and then we'll jump back to some script stuff. How's that sound?
That sounds great. And I was also thinking maybe we should do a quick little studio sound plug.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So audio effects, we've made it so much easier to add studio sound to multi-track interviews and to just tape in general. Click audio effects, audio repair, studio sound. It's going to process for us both for Alana's track and Sasha's track. This is our voice enhancement feature. It'll reduce background noise, make you sound closer to the microphone. Really, really awesome kind of catch-all enhancement feature.
Awesome.
And if you want to turn it on or off for any of the individual tracks, you can go into the sequence, select one of the tracks, and turn it off here, or adjust the intensity of studio sound.
Sweet.
And really
so if
quick,
someone has a great mic and someone has a bad mic, for example, can customize. That's awesome.
Totally. Here's without studio sound.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna face that. I really feel like my mother right now. Okay.
And it's okay if it doesn't pick up. Obviously, it's not picking up on Alana's voice. So
Okay, great. We'll unmute studio sound, reactivate.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna face that. I really feel like my mother right now. Okay.
And it's okay if it doesn't pick up. Obviously, it's not picking up on Alana's voice. So we'll each try.
Amazing. Cleans it up.
Yep.
Always adjust the intensity if you want to, but yeah.
Good stuff.
Sweet. So adding music, whether you're doing scoring or intro music of any kind, you can drag and drop music from your computer directly in. So I'm going to pull in something from our friends at Blue Dot Sessions. If you want to ever add some space, you can use those gap clips by clicking and dragging those word tabs, and then just drag and drop music right into the timeline or into the script, wherever you want it to go, and it'll drop it in. And you have that music track there. Now, same editing tools while we're working. You can add fade-ins, you can adjust the start time, adjust the end time, fade out. Holding Option or Alt, you can add automation, so volume keyframes to have the music come up or down automatically. And you can even add an effect called ducking, which will automatically reduce the volume when there's active voices in your script. Cool. All right, those are some general podcast stuff. Let's get back into our narrative work. That's really exclusive to narrative podcasting. So we've pulled some selects and we're ready to start organizing and writing around these. What we might do is add in some markers. We have music cues that we bring in, or we want to maybe add some section labels. I'm just clicking this plus button right here in the script, adding marker. And this is all interview tape, right? Like I don't have any of my host audio in here yet. So this is also a great time where I might be dropping in some of those cues. I could also use inline notes. Leave me some notes as we're going. Then maybe I'm just ready to start recording. So at this point, I can choose writing or recording directly in, whatever it might be. If I'm recording from a newscast or something on the internet that I can play out of my computer, I might use the built-in recorder to record some computer sound, which is awesome. It's like our loopback recorder. If I'm ready to start writing narration, I'm going to go up into our script tools here and go into write mode. Write that in right there. A really riveting host narration that everyone's going to love. You can write around your selects that way, just by writing directly in or creating a new paragraph if you want it to be a little bit more separate from the interview tape. Cool. So you can see here, I'm just writing in. There's no speaker labels or anything like there are there. I can always add those in if I'd like to. By going to the plus button, speaker label, call it host. And it didn't work. Let me try one more time. There we go. That looks like it ended up there. Interesting. Wouldn't be live if we didn't uncover at least one bug.
Absolutely. Bug bingo.
we'll get that fixed for y'all. Cool. So as we're going through, we might be writing and we add a speaker label, and we want to actually hear some of the audio that we're writing. So we can choose to use one of our stock voices. This is great if you're going to get an interview at some point with someone, but you want to write in kind of the sentiment and what they're going to say maybe, or what you want to include from their passages. Choose between any of these awesome stock voices, which sound really great. Or if you want to hear your narration read back in your voice or your collaborator's voice, you can share your overdub voices or just use your own overdub voice and have it played back in your voice. So I can assign the speaker label to a specific mic. And when you're in write mode and you have a speaker label assigned that uses our overdub feature, which you can learn more at on our help center, it will process this audio in your voice or whatever voice you've chosen. Cool.
It's a good time. Recently, Kevin and I did an Overdub 101 event. So you can find that also on our YouTube, where we sort of go from 0 to 1 on all things overdub for creating your voice, using it in content. So definitely go check that out if this is your first time seeing overdub and you want to get started.
Yeah. Let's hear it. Welcome to the first episode of Kevin and Christiana's show. That's me. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
There's another feature or aspect that I use overdub all the time for is after I've gone in and I've actually done my recording, so I might go and replace some of this narration with real recording. Maybe I say something that I want to change. I don't want to re-record it, or maybe I record in a studio and I don't want to go back and rent the studio again just to fix like a little word. I can use overdub to replace small words in a phrase too, or small phrases in a larger paragraph. Awesome for just keeping things evergreen or making changes if you said something wrong. Cool.
Awesome.
So I think before we move on to publishing and exporting, a couple things. Someone brought up templates. Unfortunately, templates right now are just adapted for video. But please go to feedback.descript.com and leave some feedback or find the feature request about templates and audio templates. There's a way to do it, but it hasn't been fully fleshed out and developed yet. So check that out. But templates are going to be mainly for video and visual elements. But the last bit that we didn't talk about yet, big new feature in Descript, is the media library. This is where my files live, everything that I've imported and dropped in. It's where my sequences are. But it's also where we have a bunch of stock media. So for this podcast, I might go and find some music that I can use to drop in for my score, or sound effects if I'm doing something that's like a bit more sound designed, or maybe it's a fiction show, whatever it might be. These are completely usable for all audio projects, music and sound effects. So licensed, ready to go, and you can add them to your show.
Super handy. There were some questions about the stock media, so I'm super glad you highlighted that.
Cool. And if you're a video creator or visual creator, there's video, images, GIFs, all that stuff.
Great. Also, there's some more questions about how to select the storyboard version, how to get access to that. So Marcelo, maybe we send that link to sign up to try it out. Right now, anybody that signs up, you automatically get access. So you can do that today. And does it come... There's been some questions like which level of the account does the storyboard come with? Creator, Pro, the free, and the answer is all of them. This is the new Descript. So it's for everyone, no matter what plan you're on.
Yeah, the features that I've been showing off today are from our Pro account. So things like Pro removal of filler words. It has all of these options, unlimited overdub, that kind of stuff. But you can check that out on our website, see plans.
Totally. And if you are a new user, you can use Podcast 30 at checkout, and you can try Pro for free for a month. There you go.
The last little bit for our last minute or two, let's just really quickly talk about publishing and exporting when you're ready to move things out of Descript in whatever way. Publishing a web link allows you to create a web version player of this edit so you can share with anybody. If they have a free Creator or Pro Descript account, they can leave comments, and it's just shared through a URL. So it's a really great way to get stuff out to collaborators or get fact checked if you're working with someone who's not going to open the app. Christiane and I send each other share pages all the time, which are these web link pages. Same with other folks that we work with, and as well as other podcasts that I work on. Really awesome way to create versions and just get some feedback. If you're a freelancer, this is how I send versions of a mix to someone so they can read along, see the transcript, drop in comments really easily. No more writing out timestamps with the changes that way.
Thank God.
Oh my gosh. If your episode's done and you're ready to publish it and put it out into the world, you can also publish straight to any of these publishing partners here. So Buzzsprout or Blueberry, Podbean, really great way just to get your episode out straight up from here. And you can export audio files with a bunch of different settings and advanced settings, quality. You can timeline export, which I alluded to earlier. This is if you want to non-destructively export to Pro Tools, Audition, Samplitude, Reaper is an EDL. Also, Hindenburg is included in EDL if you're a Hindenburg user. And this will include all of your raw media, all of the edits that you've made. It'll arrange them on your timeline in whatever program you're using, and you kind of just pick up where you left off. This is great for folks that are using a lot of plugins in any of those programs or doing sound design and mixing there. You can use all the power of Descript to get your edit and collaboration going and really save a lot of time and energy in the early portion of your workflow, and then continue on and put all your final touches on in Pro Tools or Audition. You can also export our transcript as text. So if you want to put that in your show notes or on your website, and subtitles if you're working with video.
Beautiful.
Cool. Christiana, do we have time for a 30-second social video bonus?
Absolutely. And if anyone has to jump off, there's a recording. So yeah, let's do the 30-second social vid.
All right. So say I really like this pink section here. I'm going to duplicate this to a composition, do a new one, open that up. And I want to make a social video for Instagram. If I go up to my templates here, I can choose any of the templates that I've made so far, these are all video, right? Or I can go into our stock template gallery, ones that come free in Descript, and I can just drop them in.
It's really just what the world values and decided, oh, well, we like this. So
or maybe I don't like that one. I'll Command Z or Control Z and I'll undo and I'll bring another one in. Maybe I'll find a pretty simple audiogram.
It's really just what the world values and
it just transforms this composition specifically into a video, and I can start to change all of the visual elements. So I can just click on something in the canvas, change the color or font or style or whatever it might be. I can click the composition settings and go to a different layout. So I can go to portrait and really get this looking and feeling how I want to. Just like that. I can also go into the stock library and pull in any other stock footage or audio or anything that I want to, and it'll add it to this. Just like that. Cool.
Awesome. That was the 30-second version, and you already know what I'm going to say. Me and Kevin have done a dedicated social video live stream in the past, which you can find on YouTube if you want more of that. We dedicated a whole hour-long session to that topic, so definitely go check that out. That's all on YouTube, and all of the events that me and Kevin do are in a playlist, so you can check all of these out. And Marcella will share that YouTube link in the chat. Somebody asked, is the social video feature available in the free version?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Templates
Everything
are available.
You just saw.
Free, creator, or pro. The big difference for all of our plans is our ability for overdub generation, but more importantly, transcription hours. So free comes with a certain number of transcription hours, and then creator and pro have a monthly or annual limit as well.
Awesome. Cool.
Sweet.
Well, we're at time, even a little bit over time. So thank you everybody for hanging out with us. And Kevin, thank you so much for a jam-packed and fantastic demo. Thank you.
Happy to be here. For folks, worth telling you, I was using the beta app, which when you sign up for Storyboard, you'll get an email and informed on how to use the beta app and get access to that. But please go to feedback.descript.com as you're working. Leave us feedback or let us know if there's any bugs that you're encountering. You can chat in, clicking the question mark in the bottom right-hand corner of your app to chat with our buds on the support team or visit the help center. But yeah, happy to be here. It's been so fun. Thanks, Christiana.
Of course. No, this was a blast. We also have a Discord community. You can join at discord.gg/Descript, and you can ask us questions, but more importantly, meet a bunch of fellow Descript users and connect and ask questions there and get community help. And lastly, I want to plug, you saw a lot of storyboard today. Next week, a week from today, we're having a storyboard Ask Me Anything with our CEO, Andrew, and our product manager, Pranav. There's a little link below to that, and you should totally come join us, and you'll see a little tutorial and be able to ask whatever you want. So that will be fun. Don't forget to try Descript Pro if you're a new user, and like Kevin said, keeping in touch with us. It was so great to hang, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Bye, Kevin.
Bye.